why did you decide to learn Spanish?
My main aim was to kind of, I suppose, have the ability to talk on a really quite basic level. It's still quite frustrating to be able to not be able to talk to locals, neighbours, people in bars, and feel like you have to default to English. So I want to be this kind of English person who's never there or doesn't interact with the rest of the people in the street.
Had you tried learning Spanish before?
Played with Duolingo for a month or two and thought it was, getting me nowhere. I did a A1 course at a local university. Most of them felt quite useless.
How confident, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident did that make you feel?
Probably 2 out of 10.
And now after these 3 months that we've taken, which of course we still have work to do, how confident would you say you feel?
7 out of 10. It feels like I'm moving forward. The fact that it's one-on-one makes a massive difference. I'm quite surprised at how much I understand without really even being forced to learn it, but it felt quite a breakthrough because, as I said to you before, I don't want to be this kind of English person, so I just found myself speaking Spanish without thinking. I suppose my whole mindset has changed. I actually quite look forward to it.
Hola, Colin.
Hello, Rennie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Sorry, I'll turn you down. You're really loud. That's my fault.
Better?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I just want to actually trace back a little bit how everything has been so that you tell me your impressions. So brilliant. First of all, Colin, tell me, why did you decide to learn Spanish? What was your objective when we started?
The objective really was to kind of be able to communicate with Spanish people. I go to Spain quite a lot, particularly Mallorca, and it's quite frustrating, or has been frustrating, to not be able to communicate. Whilst in Mallorca it's a tourist destination, so lots of people do speak English. It's still quite frustrating to be able to not be able to talk to locals, neighbours, people in bars, and feel like you have to default to English. So my main aim was to kind of, I suppose, have the ability to talk on a really quite basic level. I don't mean basic level in terms of level of Spanish, but I mean conversation topics that are quite normal. For example, there's an old lady who lives next to our house in Mallorca, and I want to talk to her about the day-to-day stuff of, is it okay to park the car there? What day is the recycling bin day? That kind of thing. So quite mundane, but the kind of conversation that I would have in English with my neighbour and want to have when I'm in Spain with people that I have some kind of connection with. So that was the kind of main aim. It wasn't to be able to watch films in Spanish in 3 months or anything crazy like that. It was quite to be able to talk in a very natural or more natural way when in standard social situations was I think where I was trying to get to.
Okay, amazing. And had you tried learning Spanish before?
A bit. I played with Duolingo for a month or two and thought it was, getting me nowhere. I did a A1 course at a local university, but it was a big group and it was quite boring, and you kind of rush from one topic to the next, and the topics are quite, probably you can guess, the topics were quite varied, but most of them felt quite useless. So I can remember one particular topic about, I don't know, describing your bedroom and where every single bit of furniture was next to each other, and I just thought, I'm never ever going to have a conversation with anyone really. So I definitely helped. I mean, I kind of went from nothing to something, but it felt a little bit irrelevant to what I wanted, and the topics that were relevant were jumped to the next very quickly. So it was okay, yeah. But it was a big group. It was kind of, I think it started with 20 people all online. By the end, there was probably only 7 or 8, because it was part of the sort of normal degree courses. So people, I think, were just doing it for an easy option, or maybe thought it was and then turned out not to be. But it wasn't really relevant to what I wanted, but it wasn't a waste of time. It just kind of made me think what I wanted was more of a natural Spanish content. Speaking to, although whilst the teacher was Spanish, most of the lesson was in English, which forced
most of the lesson was in English.
Well, there was a mix of, I mean, she was trying to keep it in Spanish, but you kind of had a group of English people who weren't very good at Spanish, so it kind of naturally was quite hard work for them.
How many
so yeah,
students
were
okay,
you? I was looking.
Sorry, go on.
I think I was going to say, whilst it was kind of a good introduction to Spanish, what I wanted, I felt, was something that was more personalised and more kind of. So, for example, we've spent, I don't know, 5 lessons on maybe 6 weeks on kind of vocabulary to be when you're in a restaurant, and I thought actually that seemed a lot initially, but to be honest, it's when I'm in Spain, I'm quite often in those scenarios, so it's really useful. So it feels like I'm concentrating on Spanish that's of use to me, and I actually then use, rather than topics which I might never get to actually use again in a Spanish context. So it's felt more useful. What I've
Yeah,
been
so
doing.
topics which are not relevant.
Yeah, exactly. We spent more time doing useful things rather than kind of moving from one topic to the next, and not really learning anything or not having enough time for it to stick in my head.
Yeah, 100%. And how different is that from what we've been doing?
It's more interesting. It feels like I'm moving forward. I'm a long way from perfect yet, and I can always do more. But the fact that it's one-on-one makes a massive difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, counting Duolingo in this course that you took, how long did you learn Spanish for, roughly?
Well, probably, I don't know, 12 months, the length of time of the college course, really, which was kind of a standard university term, October to April, May.
Okay, 1 year, roughly.
Maybe, yeah.
And how confident, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident did that make you feel to travel to Spain, to Mallorca, get by?
Not really very confident, probably 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10. Okay. And now after these 3 months that we've taken, which of course we still have work to do,
Mhm.
but if you had to take that very same scale, how confident would you say you feel?
I feel pretty confident. I can't talk about everything I want to, but in terms of confident to talk on a basic level, probably 7 out of 10.
Okay.
I can understand a lot more, probably, than I can speak, and I don't see that as a negative particularly. I mean, being forced into doing lessons in Spanish totally means that I have to understand and I don't get a choice, which means I'm quite surprised at how much I understand without really even being forced to learn it. So, I read, I don't know, not very interesting, but now I understand, kind of instructions in Spanish, on a road sign or kind of in a shop window, or, when the council puts something through the door, I kind of I understand it, not all of it, and there might be
Yeah.
some of it I don't quite get, but because I've got a basic grounding in most of the basic verbs and tenses to some degree, I kind of feel like I understand a lot more.
Okay, amazing. I mean, understanding more than what we can speak is a natural part of the process. Think of little kids. They first listen, and understand, and they understand a lot of what you're saying. And then when they are 2 years, 2.5 years, is when they start speaking a lot. So it's just a natural part of the process. And how have you felt during the lessons with Sarah? Well, during the whole process, not only the lessons, but everything.
It's been much more fun than the previous courses. I'd almost reached the point that I wasn't looking forward to going to the lessons, but now I kind of do look forward to the lessons. It feels like there's value. I struggle to fit it in terms of time, so I probably don't always do all the homework, but I will always do some of the homework. But it doesn't. So how it used to feel on the university course was there was so much work to do, it was almost impossible to do. So you kind of came into the lessons thinking almost negatively, but I don't feel like that at all with Sarah. I feel like as long as I've done sort of 70% of the work, we'll pick up the rest in the lesson. So I suppose my whole mindset has changed. I actually quite look forward to it, and Spanish in its current form and the amount of time I'm committing to it feels like a good thing, rather than something that was almost becoming a not something I wasn't looking forward to, but something that kind of was hanging over me as something I had to do, rather than something that I'm quite enjoying. So yeah, it's quite different. Maybe it's because there's a slight breakthrough in the sense that I can actually communicate a bit more, so it feels like there's some value in the time I'm spending. But yeah, I do actually quite enjoy the time I spent with Sarah. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. And well, I mean, I'm of course in constant contact with Sarah to see how you're doing. And you've almost reached unit 5. You're now doing unit 4. That's very good for the 3 months. So I don't think you're going at a slow level or anything.
I think what I meant was, I was like, I'm not retired. I don't have loads of time. I still have quite a demanding job and family commitments. So it feels like I don't have as much time as I not need, but as I see lots of other people in the WhatsApp group kind of doing lots of things,
Yeah.
and I can barely keep up with the messages, to be honest. Kind of. So
Yeah.
I suppose I'm talking about it negatively only because you're sort of asking me about how I feel about it. But it's not that. It just feels that if I had more time and I had more space, I could do more and be better. But equally, that doesn't make me unhappy. I kind of feel that I'm kind of where I feel I'm getting value out of it.
Absolutely. Unless as long as you're giving your current 100%, we're super happy and proud. I mean, if your 100% is this, then brilliant. Actually, how much are you doing on a weekly basis?
I probably do. Honestly, I probably am doing the hour lesson and probably another 2 hours on top of that.
So 3 hours in total.
a week. Yeah, I would say. But I don't do it. I know that this is not the right way, but I tend to set aside a kind of a day or two and do it then, rather than do kind of, an hour a day or half an hour a day. And I know that might not be the most perfect way, but it just kind of works best for me.
Okay. The optimal, it always depends on the student. The optimal is to spend 15, 20 minutes every day or 4 or 5 days a week, so that we keep that habit. And we're going to see how to do it in the following months that we've got coming up. But I mean, if you've been doing 2 hours or 3 hours a week, and you've gone from a 2 out of 10 of confidence to an 8, 7, 8 of confidence, that's brilliant. I mean, it's great progress that you're making, Colin. And as I said, from what Sarah is telling me, your progress is good. You're progressing well. So we're happy. We're happy on how you're doing things.
Good.
Yeah. Do you have any upcoming trip to Spain?
Well, we were there a couple of weeks ago. I don't think we'll probably go back into. I wanted to go for Christmas, but we have to stay in England for Christmas for some kind of traditional reasons. Whereas I quite like to have a Spanish Christmas. So I don't think we're going to be back in Mallorca until February, unless there's some kind of problem I need to sort out.
Okay.
So it was really good in the summer because we went lots of times. Went for 3 weeks at one point, and then we were back in September, and it's almost every month I was there for a bit. And that really made a big difference in terms of kind of not feeling like I was. So I suppose the difference is, and this kind of, I really noticed this last time I was there, was it almost felt like before I had to remember to speak Spanish and make an effort to speak Spanish, whereas in quite an increasing amount of scenarios, I just found myself speaking Spanish without thinking, which was quite a change. I mean, nothing massively complicated, but equally, I don't think the person I was talking to was particularly amazed, but it was quite a change in my attitude to it. It made it quite easy because I wasn't having to think about it. So that's good.
That's amazing, Colin. I'm super happy. That's amazing.
Good.
So how did you feel in general terms in this last trip you made?
Well, I had a big chat with a neighbour, which was something that we set out at the start. It wasn't a very exciting conversation, but it centred around how long I was staying for. She said, where's my daughter? Because it was just Claire and I. And I was able to explain that Juliet had gone to university in London, so I couldn't come. And she had studying to do. And we talked about the weather, because that's all she talks about is the weather. She's about 70 or 80. And then we just talked about what we're going to do while we're there. But it was all quite easy. So yeah, that was quite a breakthrough. Whereas before, the conversation would be, hello, how are you? And then something I couldn't understand. And then it would kind of just sort of, she'd get bored with me and I get frustrated. So it was, as I said, it was an amazingly exciting conversation, but it felt quite a breakthrough because, as I said to you before, I don't want to be this kind of English person taking, who's never there or doesn't interact with the rest of the people in the street. So it was quite, I think, a breakthrough for her and me.
Okay, that's amazing. You should be happy, right?
I am, definitely. I mean, as I say, probably I'm more excited about it than she is, but at least there's some kind of communication going on now.
Okay, that's brilliant. Sounds good.
Okay, thanks, Renee.
All right, amazing, Colin. So if there's no other questions, we can leave it here.
Good to see you again.
Brilliant. Venga, Colin, pues nos vemos pronto.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Adiós. Chao, chao.